Good morning, good evening, good afternoon for those who are watching. Welcome to a special edition of Let's Humanize the Workplace, where I am going to have a conversation with Mary Jane Roy, my dear friend Mary Jane Roy. And we are discussing about topics that are related to go to thrive, right? Thriving workplace is everything that's needed right now. And thriving is also the let's say the equivalent of creating a high performance workplace where everybody is bringing their best selves and showing up themselves as well. I am Vivian Acquah. I'm a certified inclusion strategist and how do you say? What I do is I support companies with dismantling barriers that can hinder high performance, that can hinder inclusion as well, and anything related to that, and been supported of so many companies as well. So please connect with me or have a look on my LinkedIn, see what I write about, but also how I can support you and your team or your managers to win and create a thriving team or create a thriving workplace as well, because it's so much needed, especially now with the workforce having their demands. I don't see it as demand. I see it as nice to have, and also necessary to have these demands
Mhm.
as well, necessary to have these ingredients as well to amplify inclusion, right? So I want to hand the mic over to Mary Jane Roy because she can introduce herself bestly. So Mary Jane.
Thanks, Vivian. Thank you. Hi, everyone. Yeah, Mary Jane Roy. My company is Creating Waves, and I have a specialty, and my expertise lies in sharing within the corporate world for employees how to navigate stressful situations, which we all come across, and building personal resilience. So, those are my two main areas. Vivian and I know each other now, I think 6 or 7 years, and
Mhm. 7.
yeah,
I
seven,
think
huh?
it's
Yeah.
longer.
And we've also, in the last few years, started to work together as well in the areas of DEI, inclusion, and diversity and equity. So, yeah, that's me in a nutshell.
And also, I'm looking at my desk, and I have an amazing calendar by Danielle Beaufour. She has a really awesome Instagram account. Even though don't look at the date, but I wanted to share this image with you, right? So it's the act of true love. I see you. I'm here for you. Showing empathy and connecting with others are walking through rough seasons who can help you feel seen today. I wanted to share this as well because these are daily quotes that I can grab from my desk, and there are some that I can keep, but I wanted to share this because of the topic that we are discussing, and also how can we show up at work and really support people with their well-being as well. So to dive into the conversation, I wanted to unravel it a little bit because a while ago, we came across a HBR article, and it was about care washing. And like Mary Jane, oftentimes we have these conversations behind the scenes, like on our WhatsApp. It's like, oh, this is a good topic to have a conversation about. And just so you know, that too many organizations hide behind service level well being initiatives. So they provide yoga classes, they provide mindful training, whilst continuing the unhealthy work standard, like working 9 to 9 or work hard, play hard. Don't believe in that at all, because work hard, play hard results into a burnout. But that's more of that. Mary Jane can share more about that. And also, we have to be mindful that we don't advertise, or you don't advertise as a company. You don't advertise with, you can do yoga, you can do this, you can do that, but people not having the time to work on themselves with their well-being, right? So care washing, we'll dive into care washing, we'll dissect the definition of care washing and other like washing that is related to diversity, equity, and inclusion that can hurt your organization, that can hurt your team performance as well, instead of thinking that tokenizing a word or tokenizing a topic or a theme can help you move forward and attract people as well. Anything to add, Mary Jane?
Well, I think we just had this conversation. Shall I start off with
Mm-hmm.
the
Yeah.
the, the differences that we approached the care
Yeah.
washing?
Mm-hmm.
So it's a it is a term that has come in. greenwashing, care washing, rainbow washing, pink washing.
Yeah.
We're seeing a lot of it, but whitewashing,
Mm-hmm.
where the definition that I was approaching this all from, covering up or putting a misleading spin on a situation. And so that was my basic premise. But Vivian, I was really fascinated to hear you share what your concept of whitewashing is.
Yeah,
Can
and
you
I'm
kick
and I'm
off with
not
that?
saying that your concept is wrong, because there are,
No.
there are, for one word or for one definition, there are multiple layers of a definition, right? But the way that I've come across this word or this terminology, whitewashing, it's connected to the civil rights. It's connected to people portraying themselves in a good light, in a good sentiment, whilst Black people are hurting, right? Let's say that when you look at the current climate, what's happening in the US, there's a lot of whitewashing being done. Things are being edited where people of color are not mattering at all. So
Mhm.
that's an example of how I see whitewashing. So when Mary Jane brought it up this morning, I was just like, okay, Mary Jane, I'm not really comfortable with addressing it during this conversation, however, or typing it as a word. However, I do feel like there's a need, and it's important to talk about the things that we don't want to address, or the things that we need to address but are challenging to address. Right? So that's why we are bringing different perspectives in regarding this terminology, so that you can understand there are different ways that people look towards this terminology as well. So I want to bring up the care washing. So it was this screen that I brought up, and then Mary Jane said, well, what about whitewashing? And that's where the conversation started. A conversation, not a discussion, not a debate.
Mm-mm.
I always talk I always talk from a dialogue perspective. So care washing. Care washing is a term that is used to describe the superficial promotion of employee well-being by organizations without any genuine commitment to it, right? So as an example, what I shared before, like promising all the different benefits, but not, creating time and space for people within the calendar to make use of that practice, right? To make use of a trainer, or to go to therapy, or whatever is needed that your company is offering. Do you have another example, maybe, Mary Jane?
Yeah, I think it's one that we've talked about before as well, is the fact of the one-offs, you know?
Yeah, the one
I
night stand things.
yeah, yeah, the one-off stands, yeah. And that by that I mean,
Hmm.
a trainer gets hired in with the
Yeah.
expertise, say, that I have in
Hmm.
terms of learning tools and tips on navigating stress better in your lives.
Hmm.
Uh, then it's a one-off, you know,
Yeah.
uh, 1.5, 2.5, 3.5 hour
Hmm.
workshop, and then people are expected to go away and embed it in practical ways in their personal and professional lives.
Hmm.
It's this is so such a narrow view of what's needed
Yeah.
for
Yeah.
employee well-being, and I think all of the employee well-being, and I think this is one of the things where the article, the HBR article, Vivian
Hmm.
highlighted, is that employee well-being is so closely tied to
Yeah.
a performance of an organization.
Exactly.
And so
No,
it's so
exactly.
short-sighted. It's yeah, that's yeah,
Exactly, and that's why I just wanted to bring these figures up, right? Because
yeah.
recently Gallup came up with the state of the workplace, and this is a yearly activity that Gallup does, is take all the surveys from the whole world, all the different organizations, and put them into one report. And it's important to highlight, what happened in 2023, or the figures of 2023, and the figures of recent, right? So actively disengaged, 17% versus 18% previously. Thriving workplace, or people thriving at work, 21%, and versus 23%. So that figure has lowered. And where are all those people? Well, it went to all to quiet quitting, whereas people show up in the workplace, they show up between 9 to 5, they do the bare minimum, don't go, the extra end, but also their energy can be slightly contagious towards other people, going towards the presenteeism as well. So it's called quiet quitting, or you can see it as presenteeism, as people showing up, not really wanting to be there, but they know they have to be there because they need an income, etc.
Yeah. And I do know that the word presenteeism, it's one that I've used for years
Hmm.
prior to quiet quitting coming on
Hmm.
scene. That presenteeism officially in the HR world was seen as somebody showing up who has a chronic illness.
Yeah. Yeah.
However, I extended it into being that they're there, but they're not engaged. You know,
Hmm.
they're not.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're not fully engaged as they can be, and
Hmm.
they're not actively disengaged. But so, and the cost of presenteeism on that basis alone, not
Hmm.
even looking at the chronic illness of employees, but the cost of presenteeism is far greater than absenteeism due to ill health.
Hmm. Yeah.
So, and again, it's that close ties, that how closely aligned well-being is to an organization's performance. And
Hmm.
yeah, it's something that really does need to be addressed. They for some reason they're ignoring these numbers, Vivian.
It's well, ignoring, but also we have to also put ourselves in the spaces and minds of where leaders what leaders have to deal with at the moment right now, right? It's not only about the internal challenges that they are dealing, it's also external challenges, whereas maybe a president from a certain country is saying something and it's impacting the whole world, right? Or maybe their CEO or their company is retracting from DEI, which in the end it won't favor them, right? Look at what's happening as Target, but also look at what's happening to the deals that are being ignored or not being made when you look into what the rest of Europe is thinking about diversity, equity, and inclusion, right? So there is a lot that leaders are currently handling, and I would say that it's a very important to have a individual conversation, but also have a support mechanism for leaders so that they can recharge and charge themselves and recharge. It also reminds me, this conversation reminds me of a recent book presentation that I attended by Adam Kahane, where he talks about resting and recharging and fueling yourselves while you are working between the cracks, right? The Adam Kahane has a book coming out, or is out right now, but there is also another book coming out, and I recently shared a post about it on my timeline. So I think it was Friday or Saturday. It's a very good book for every leader to have when you want to create change and create it between the ripple effects, focusing on the ripple effects or the small cracks instead of the bigger effects of bombarding the whole system, which won't work, right? So, in a way, Adam Kahane is talking about calling in and using that calling in as a way to navigate into the changes that you want to make, or to connect with your audience as well.
I think it's what he's recommending are little micro steps
Yeah.
that can, as you mentioned, create, and that's the premise around creating waves is
Hmm.
that ultimately those small steps. And you
Yeah.
mentioned something that's really important, and especially in these work hard, play hard cultures that are
Ooh.
so prevalent,
Yeah.
and that is these micro breaks. You know, giving
Mm.
people the chance to 2 or 3 minutes every hour or hour and a half or 2 hours to recharge
Hmm.
in some way,
Yeah. Yeah.
whether it be through humor or breathing,
Hmm.
abdominal breathing,
Yeah.
um,
Or
a,
just for stepping
a
away and dance.
yeah,
Dance.
a zebra shake or anything, you know. Yeah, again, these are ways that we can really support employees by
Hmm.
giving people the opportunity to take these breaks, and especially when deadlines are imminent.
Yeah.
Again, the ability to, you mentioned in your article, I think it was, Vivian, that
Hmm.
athletes don't ever not take the recovery days.
Yeah.
They know that if
Yeah.
they don't recover on time,
Yeah.
their
Mhm.
performance is going to go down.
Mhm.
Somehow we've lost sight of this within the organizational structures and
Yeah.
or systems, and this needs to be changed. I had made a reference to myself. I was looking up the speech of the new pope,
Mm.
and then
Yeah.
this article, the link that you sent me to.
Mhm.
I can't think of his name now, but it was excellent reflections
Mhm.
on what the pope had said. But that, we become so entrenched in thinking that the only things that are important, are things like money, technology, power, success.
Yeah. Yeah.
But what happens to our values? What happens to things like honesty, valuing humanity, um, integrity, all of these kinds of
Mhm.
things, and
Yeah.
those are missing in organizations. And
Yeah.
yeah, it's I don't think I don't think they can survive in the long run because the humans are going to
No.
be collapsing. We can
Mhm.
only take so much. And I was at a workshop on Friday in Utrecht,
Mhm. Yeah.
and one of the women that was there, and she's a Gen Z, and I, younger. I hate to use, but we were talking about generations
Mhm.
and generational stereotyping. But she said,
Mhm.
I'm not going to work more than 32 hours a week
Yeah.
because I saw what it did to my parents and their generation. And,
Mhm.
that's not the life I want for myself.
Yeah.
So they're making other choices. And if
Yeah.
organizations don't go along with it, again, with the talent shortage, yeah, this is,
To me, this is a personal thing to me because the first time that I interned and I was already working for the company part-time, I made a deal that I noticed that working 5 days, 8 hours, 40 hours, I was calculating like how many days am I going to spend to recover? So I negotiated a way that I will work 3 days intern, 2 days intern, 2 days paid, full paid as the previous pay, plus not work one day in the week as well. So in total, I would have 3 days that I'm not working. And this methodology has helped me so much because the first time that I worked 40 hours, I was screaming and running like, no, never ever. The longest that I've done is work 36 hours, but still within the 4 days framework because I need a day to recover. Now that I know that I'm neurodivergent, I do understand why I need to recover or I need to have some space in between and interact on a different way. But many people, the Netherlands, has gotten known for us being maybe lazy comparing to other countries, but also women are being labeled like you're working less or you're working less hours, are being called lazy. But what about we are working productive and we are still sharing the output that is needed, right? We are doing the work that needs to be done. And sometimes people say you need 40 hours, but what if I can do the work between 32 hours or less?
yeah, yeah. It in an ideal world, in an
Yeah, in
ideal
an
world,
ideal world, it doesn't always make sense, but I work to sustain my life and I don't live to work. That's how I believe.
yeah, yeah. And I think organizations are just going to have to there's somewhere a line is going to be drawn, and
Mhm.
um, to hear and no further. In my
Yeah,
mind,
yeah.
you hit the
Yeah.
proverbial brick wall, and more and more. Do we have any data on current burnout numbers?
Not really, but before we share data, I want to
Yeah.
acknowledge Kira as well. Thank you, Kira, for listening or watching this conversation. It is indeed a very interesting
Mhm.
conversation as well, and also realizing that just in the morning, this is a topic outside of the topic, but I realized that I just found out that Financial Times in the Netherlands was sharing that companies are now paying off student loans to attract the young generation. And that's an interesting thing because you're paying the student loans, which is positive, but then I'd also be mindful to invest in their well-being as well, because
Yeah.
I don't have the facts for burnout, but what I do have is share the numbers from the Gallup presentation regarding the emotions that are in the
Yeah.
workplace at the moment right now,
Yeah.
right? So these are emotions, and I would like to hand over the mic to you, Mary Jane, to address the impact of these emotions in the workplace.
Yeah. I mean, I think they speak for themselves, don't they? I mean, really. Um,
Mm-hmm.
and yeah, I mean, what can you say? If
Mm-hmm.
everyone is experiencing, almost half of your employees are experiencing stress on a daily
Mm-hmm.
basis.
Yeah.
I mean, and stress, it's not just a word. Stress affects people physiologically. It affects
Mm-hmm.
people mentally. It affects people emotionally. How
Mm-hmm.
the heck,
It it hijacks their productivity in a
it
way. It can
hijacks your
hijack
brain?
your brain,
Yep,
can
yep,
hijack, what you're doing, and it can literally cause you to freeze or fawn or fight.
yeah,
And being in
flight,
that
yeah,
state the whole time is not effective, never
no,
effective.
no, and even if it was just one stressful moment in the day,
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I tell you, if you remember it and you can record
Yeah.
and say, yesterday I felt stressed, yes,
Mm-hmm.
then it was obviously impactful. But that is
Mm-hmm.
going to affect you physiologically and mentally and emotionally for anywhere from 4 to 6 hours later. All
Yeah.
right. And
Yeah.
longer if it was something that you took home with you, that you
Mm-hmm.
shared with your partner, that you called your mother about, or whatever, because we have that ability to keep that stressful emotions
Mm-hmm.
alive. They can literally hijack us, and if they do
Yeah.
that, the wear and tear on our well-being is incredible. Emotions like anger, 21% experience anger on a daily basis,
Yeah.
and
And I also
loneliness
would like
and
to I
loneliness.
also
Yeah.
yeah. I also would like to be mindful of what you just shared right now, because maybe people don't understand its impact, right? There is a book out there, it's called The Body Keeps a Score. And when you bring stress home and you don't have a system to beat stress or to mitigate stress or to minimize stress, it will eat you alive. And
Mhm.
literally, it will be part of your DNA, your code. And I'm also reading another book. I'm reading it in chunks. The book is called It Didn't Start With You, where the stress that you are enduring now is in your DNA code, and it can be registered to not only this generation but also the future generation, 5 generations as well. And it's been scientifically proved. So those who are saying it's their science, yes, there is definitely science. The science is shared in the book called It Didn't Start With You, where the author is sharing different sciences. And it's also in the Bible. There is a connection in the Bible saying that whatever is done upon you at the moment right now can reach like 5 generations beyond that as well.
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that aspect, Vivian, but I do know that, for example, in pregnancy, a
Yeah,
mother who is stressed in during pregnancy,
yeah,
the risk for that infant, that newborn, is much greater, and
yeah.
not just when they're born, but even how they
Mm-hmm.
develop and mature. So,
Yeah.
um, yeah, it's very strong. And the what I do know about stress and DNA is that
Mm-hmm.
DNA affects what's called the telomeres. So
Mm-hmm.
it affects how DNA expresses itself.
Yeah.
It's yeah. So you may have a genetic tendency for a certain kind of disease or illness, which would
Mm-hmm.
never manifest itself except because of stress,
Yeah.
the stress that you experience. So it
Mm-hmm.
does affect how DNA expresses itself, and
Mm-hmm.
that I know is also a very scientifically validated, um, um, yeah, what do I call it?
Research.
Fact.
Research.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, fact. Yeah,
Yeah, so realizing that, but also, the topic that you talk about, right? I found that out in the book, and I heard about stress being parents who are pregnant, who are dealing with stress, that it can impact the baby, in the womb. What
yeah.
I didn't realize is that after the womb, after the period, it can also impact the child at the moment right now, right? So, for those who don't know, I face maternal wall bias by being bullied by my then managers, dealing with harshness, correct, so much hardness and harshness, and so many other things that I'm now thinking that what have I passed on to my child unwillingly, unknowingly, because of that scenario?
Yeah, but realizing that is the most important thing, because
Yeah.
you can give Orlando the care and the guidance and the tools that he
Mm-hmm.
needs in order to, if there's something there, to
Mm-hmm.
that he can then address them,
We're
navigate
we're
it.
working on that now. We're
Yeah.
working on that now because he's a perfectionist in a way, similar to his mother in a way, and realizing that he wants to score high or he wants a good score, and putting all that pressure upon himself, his body shut down. His body literally shut down. So we are currently working together with him and his dad and myself, working together to end the day with a conversation and one helpful thought that can rewrite the way that he tackles challenges,
Mhm.
right? So yeah, it's
Yeah.
a valuable lesson that I can see so many benefits from in the workplace, having a conversation about what well-being measurements or what well-being strategies are you taking, and also learning from each other. So one thing that is definitely in my well-being toolkit is whenever I do a DEI training, doesn't matter what topic it is. Some topics might be, challenging, like microaggression, or maybe something like inclusive leadership, depending on the audience as well. Some days the audience is amazing, and on other days, I wish that they weren't that challenged, because in the end, they understand that this is the way to this is what they need to do to become inclusive leaders, but it's not always accepted in the way that I hope that we'll accept it. So sometimes there is friction. Sometimes people come up with polarized comments as well. And I know how to deal with that. And I always have most of the time, I always have a co-facilitator, because two people can see more and two people can do more. But still it will have an impact on my emotions on that day. So what I do, either I box, so use boxing as a way to break out the sweat, but also boxing like I wanna physically beat down this experience as well. And on the other hand, I regularly visit the sauna. I have an in-home sauna, infrared sauna. I had that already, a few years ago. I am Ghanaian. My blood always is asking for warmth, especially in the winter, and this is my mechanism right now. So I visit like the sauna like 4 or 5 times per week to sweat different emotions out, but also to process my day and leave it at that moment in time, so that next time when I talk about it, it is less painful, less hurtful, and I've processed the emotions, instead of going to bed without anything happening through that day, where I can make from one small thing make it so much bigger.
I want to add to this for
Mhm.
anyone listening in, and that is one of the things that we don't get taught
Mm.
typically, most of us, is
Yeah.
emotional self-regulation.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And there is, if you Google on it, the emotional wheel,
Mhm.
you'll see just how many emotions that we have and we are capable of and we will express, but we can't name them. Our emotional literacy is really poor. Um, Brene Brown did some research into this. They were university students, I believe, and it was quite a large number. And she had estimated that they would be able to name or she theorized they would be able to name no more than 7 emotions.
Mhm.
All right. And the results were that they, on average, could name 3 emotions. And they all boiled down to a version of mad, sad, or glad. All right. And so, yeah, we do need. Did you just quickly get? Oh, okay, this is a
Yeah,
different
of
one, but
course. This is a
yeah,
different one, but it is similar to
yeah,
what is possible. Yeah.
yeah. And so, yeah, we really need to work on understanding our emotions better, being able to name an emotion. So when somebody triggers you into a certain emotion or feeling, that you can actually put a name to it.
Mhm.
I think it was possibly Daniel Kahn. I might be misquoting, but um, uh, name it to tame it was the
Yeah.
quote. All right,
Yeah.
because being able to name the emotion, having your brain engaged to say, right now I'm feeling this
Mhm.
XYZ, it takes some of the significance out of that emotion immediately. All right.
Definitely.
Because then
Definitely.
instead of letting it hijack you, but
Mhm.
I'm just absolutely furious at this, because then you're going to start to process why, what happened, what was the trigger that created this strong emotion in you. And
Yeah.
so, I think this is one other area that anyone listening in, start diving in, start recording on a daily basis what emotions you felt. And
Mhm.
awe and joy and happiness as well. Let's not forget, uh, yeah, those kinds of emotions and feelings, um,
Mhm.
but also the ones that we need, because they're signals that something is not right in our world. All right.
Yeah.
I call them either feel good emotions or not so feel good emotions. They're not
Mhm.
positive or negative. I try to
Yeah.
take that language away from emotions because we need them all. An
They are
emotion,
a yin and yang, right? We need them to have that balance
yeah,
among within ourselves as well.
yeah,
So I definitely get it.
yeah. And so going back to the global and European data
Mhm.
that you just had on the screen,
Yeah.
the feelings and sadness and loneliness, etc. Um, yeah, these are things that we possibly could have, or could be within our locus of control.
Mhm.
But we need the tips and tools to explore them
Yeah.
and have them become part of our DNA.
Yes,
Right?
definitely. And I
Yeah.
also believe that there is an element that is often underestimated, right? We know anger, we know in a way stress and sadness, but loneliness. You might think that even though your office has like 50 people in a workplace or in one space, that people shouldn't be feeling lonely. But if people are unconsciously excluding each other or are deliberately excluding themselves from that equation, right? So I remember in certain occasions when it's very busy, I sometimes exclude myself and sit in a quiet, space where
Isolate
yeah,
yourself.
I isolate myself because I wanna focus on work, right? So there are moments that it might connect with loneliness, and it might connect with you not being able to connect with your team or not being able to connect with the company, right? So don't underestimate loneliness, because loneliness can trigger all these other different emotions as well, like stress, sadness, and
Mhm.
anger, and it's connected to that as well. So don't underestimate that.
Yeah, yeah, and we're seeing it progressively more um,
Mhm.
in
Yeah.
yeah, not just in the workplace, but in people's personal lives. So
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. People learned I think a hard lesson through the lockdown, where they have friends and family. I mean, I was lucky that I have my network. I have Let's Humanize the Workplace, but I also have the summit that I already had a lot of interactions, but I can also imagine that if I didn't have those interactions and I would only be depending on family or my partner and my child, my world will be very small if I
Mhm.
only had that. So I can understand, people, their perspectives as well. And I hope that they get the understanding at work as well, or they get the understanding from their leaders, or the leaders get the understanding, so that they can better lead as well.
And I'm thinking on this topic of loneliness.
Hmm.
I don't think Gallup does it, but to be able to see what the figures are for just on the binary scale, men versus women,
Mm-hmm.
because I know that the
They
data is
do
up
have it.
on that. Do they have it?
Hmm.
That men and boys experience much greater degrees of loneliness. They have higher suicidal rates as well. And again, this is probably part of the conditioning, the stereotypical conditioning that we place on men and women. But for men, not being able to express their emotions,
Hmm.
not being able to confide, in somebody that they're experiencing XYZ. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see what that data is. I know I see by your eyes that you're probably trying to look for it.
I have it. No, I already have it, but I need to upload it on the screen as well so that I can, let me see, that I can share it. But I already have it. It's an interesting perspective to show. Let me see if I can present my whole screen. Can you see it?
Yeah,
So this is
it's
the
small for
daily
me.
loneliness, and I will make it a little bit bigger. So they say
Okay.
90% of the women experience loneliness, and 24% of the men experience loneliness. And when you divide it, you will also see 25% below 35, right? And 20% above 35 years old is
Okay.
experiencing loneliness as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Great stats. Yeah. You dove deeper into the data than I did, Vivian.
Hmm. But you asked, and I was just like, I know that the data is there,
Yeah. Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's already in the report. So why not bring it up? I haven't made it beautified it with with the
No.
colors, but this is what I can do. And
Okay. Yeah.
also know
Fantastic.
that those who are working remotely feel more excluded from their team members, right? So this goes into show, like, what times of tools, team building activities do you have in place to keep people connected with each
Yeah.
other?
I mean, that's more than one-fourth of
Yeah,
your employee base.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah. And this is just the loneliness. Huh? Yeah.
yeah. This is just the loneliness. Yes, I only brought up the loneliness.
Yeah. Thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, you're welcome.
I think we could wrap up on that note. What do
Yeah,
you think?
yeah, I think so too. I wanted to say, I don't know who this is. LinkedIn is not showing
Mhm.
it, but I'll definitely look it up on LinkedIn. Thank you for,
Yeah.
for listening to us or for watching this. And I'm also curious, like, if there are any topics that you want us to address with the with the Go to Thrive theme, right? Let us know so that we can address it next time, next month. But thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. If you're watching the replay, also let us know what your thoughts are on this particular topic, because it's we need to have more conversations about this. And I know that the world is rapidly evolving, especially with AI being at the corner, maybe being a threat or a value for effectiveness. What are you doing to still maintain and boost and amplify your resilience, your well-being as well? That's what I wanted to end it with.
And one last thing, because you said something and I thought you were going to go in a different direction. The world is
Hmm.
evolving, but
Yeah.
it's also my feelings is that in many ways it's devolving. And
Yeah.
we
Yeah.
really need to put a focus on the
Humanizing the
thriving,
workplace.
thriving, thriving. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank
Thanks,
you also.
Vivian.
Thank you, Goste. I hope that I'm pronouncing your name right. If not, please let us know, and know that LinkedIn has an option that you can pronounce your name. So Google LinkedIn name pronunciation, or have a look at my LinkedIn where you can see a speech volume next to my name. When you click on that, you'll know how to pronounce my name right. So let us know. And if you're not activating the name pronunciation, then know that you can Google the LinkedIn name pronunciation so you have that. Ooh, another comment. Thank you, Kyra. Evolving and devolving. Yes. Yes. Thank you for sharing
Unfortunately,
that with
Kira,
us.
unfortunately, yeah. Thank you for sharing. Yeah,
Thank
yeah,
you. I would say, ooh, now everybody's coming up with all these comments. Thank you.
yeah.
Thank you,
You're
Annabelle.
welcome, Annabella. Thank you.
You. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's such a surprise when people show up. So thank you,
yeah,
Mary, Jane, for this
yeah.
conversation. And
Thank you too,
like I
Vivian.
said, looking forward to next time.
Yeah,
Bye, everybody. Until
absolutely.
next
Bye,
time.
everyone.